Hello and welcome. So today I'd like to do casual guide, casual walkthrough, a bit of gameplay, and I suppose most of all, some light entertainment of how we play Baldur's Gate, which is with no reload, no pausing, and other silly rules. We've had many runs with the rules that we've implemented, and I don't even know if at this stage we've actually completed the game of all the rules that we implemented, but that doesn't stop us from making new ones. In any case, so in this run, I'm playing a Skald, which is a kit set of a Bard, and my friend is playing an Avenger, which is a kit set of a Druid. And you'll notice that we've got terrible stats, ability rolls, because that's another rule that we play is what we call average Joes, where whatever role we're given in character creation, yeah, that's it. That's the role we take. And from doing that, I must admit, we've learned quite a few things about Baldur's Gate, which has become quite interesting. Because there's certain potions in the game that make your strength, maybe brings it up to 18, or your dexterity to 18, or your constitution. And if you start your game with a character created with 18 strength, 18 dex, those potions don't seem very useful because, well, you already have that amount of dexterity or strength or constitution. And oh, my friend's here in a bit of trouble. And yeah, I remember this moment. The only time we pause is when maybe there's an issue with the multiplayer. There's a couple bugs that we've noticed. One is in multiplayer, there's sometimes my friend's computer, like, it shows up as it's paused while I'm not. Not sure how to reproduce it at all, but the only way that we know to fix it is just to spam the pause button and pause it, unpause it. And sometimes some items just disappear, like we're holding it in our inventory, we select it on something, and it just disappears. Now, when that happens, a lot of the times we just roll with it. Like, we just roll with it as if there was a sneaky thief that just took the item out of our hands and disappeared. Unless if it is for a very important item, like the gloves of dexterity. That item, I don't know if I can live without it. And then in that case, we do reload. And yeah, wow. It's all up into interpretation of how you want to see the rules, but when it comes to a multiplayer bug or something like that, yeah, we see it as a case where you can reload. Alright, so we're just about done the Candlekeep quests, and we just do it more out of habit. It's not really important, because really if you do all the quests, you get maybe a couple hundred of XP, you get a couple hundred gold pieces, you can buy a few items. But in reality, it's not really going to make a huge difference. But it's a nice way to, we do it because it's a nice way to ease into the game, something nice and familiar. So I'm running this video at 2x speed, and I plan to possibly jump ahead any boring bits and slow it down to any more interesting combat scenarios or fighting, because I think maybe there might be some interest. Well, I like to think there might be some interest to see how you might play this game when you don't pause at all. So here we're picking up Monty and Exar. They're kind of like my go-to. I always have big ambitions that they'll see the end of the game, but yeah, admittedly they don't. It's very sad in some ways. Now, so there's two things that we also play. Now, initially, to make the game harder, we used to play the game as solo characters. So I would have one character, my friend would have one character. Oh, I'll just interject here, because right here is a special ring, which will get your wizard to have double the level 1 spells. And my gosh, the mages need all of the help that they can get at low levels. I mean, no doubt that mages are powerhouses at the end of the game, but when you're low level and when you're not playing without pausing, oof, it's a bit rough. But no matter, we have found some ways to make them very useful. Alright, so we're up to Tarnesh, who walks down the friendly arm in. And I remember when I was young, he was almost like the equivalent of a mini boss for this game, because he casts very crippling spells. One is this mirror image, which he's just casted straight off. And then he usually casts horror. And here it comes. Oh no. fortunately, it looks like we were saved by the guards at the friendly Armin. Thank you, guards. Yeah, this is one of the reasons why no reload runs this. Why we find it so enjoyable, because sometimes it can be quite memorable with some of the BS that happens. Right, so there's a couple of scrolls on Tarnesh, and we'll pick them up. And now here's the thing about mage scrolls for bards and mages. Now, because we play on core rules, if you try to learn some of the spells, they can fail. And so what it turns out is you actually don't need to have super high intelligence on character creation. No, because there's a couple potions which you can use to help you learn some scrolls. So quite often I end up accumulating quite a few scrolls, especially the ones I really, really want, and then waiting till a certain time, a certain level, and then I'll drink a couple of potions of genius and then learn all of the scrolls all at once. Although more so lately, I'm finding myself casting a lot of spells actually just from scrolls, and it's quite good to actually have quite a lot of spells just having your quick slots, and you can just cast them whenever you need them, which is almost like being a sorcerer, which allows you to cast spells without you resting, and it gives quite a lot of versatility. And more often than not, things like certain spells you actually only end up actually using once or twice per game, even though it might seem very, very useful to have them always in your spellbook. Okay, so we've picked up lead in Jahira, and now we've got a full party of 6. And yeah, as I was saying before, so we used to just have one character each, I suppose, in a sense, playing the game solo and multiplayer, solo. But we found that while you level up faster, you just play with one character, and one level 6 character is way stronger than having 6 level 1 characters. So it's almost like a disadvantage to play with more characters.
Whoops.
Oh.
Consider it done.
That was her on autocast. Let's just take that off.
That was her autocast?
Yep.
It's not even turned on. How did that happen? That's weird.
That was unusual.
Hello, you betcha.
Was unnecessary.
Yeah, I was hoping to use that against the ogre.
You always try to use that against the ogre.
Never works.
Never works.
But this time's different. I can feel it. Well, I don't have it anymore.
So AI, using AI scripts is vital in this game when you're playing no pausing. And a couple years back, I made a video on how you can actually make your own scripts. Then I sort of forgot all about it. But yeah, the AI scripts for fighters is usually pretty good. I mean, you want your fighters just to start attacking. It almost makes it similar to a real-time strategy game. But unfortunately, the mage spells are usually more to be desired, I suppose is the best way to call it. It's pretty good when you have it set with just the defensive spells, but when they're set with offensive spells, they tend to just waste them a little bit too much. Right, and we got that ogre, who's a pretty tough monster, really. If he catches you and hits you, one hit can sometimes GG your character. And you'll see that we did quite a bit of kiting, which, yeah, I think it's an important valid technique to use in no pause games. Because you need some way just to keep your other guys safe. And also to almost allow sometimes for your mages to do stuff with your mages. So casting, because we're not pausing, so quite often whatever spells that I have in the quick slots are the ones I'll be using. Okay, so we're up to Beregost, and there's usually about four quests that we normally do here. One is talking to Mal, where it's just a dialogue choice, but it's worth quite a bit of XP right here. As long as you know the choices, and talk about his son. There's another one which is a continuation of Friendly Armin, where there's some spiders to kill, some items to bring back. There's Silky, and what's the last one that we normally do? Oh right, there's a book which you can buy for Firebead, which has the scroll case, which is really important just to help with inventory management. But looks like we didn't do it this run. We normally do those 4 quests, just like the Candlekeep quest. It's stuff which you can skip, but we do it a lot, usually out of habit. About these ogorillons here, we've beat them quite easily with range, but in most circumstances I've nicknamed them the Khalid killers. Quite often they send 1 or 2 punches into Khalid and Khalid normally explodes from them. And well, there's one thing that I feel like that makes the original Baldur's Gate a little bit more multiplayer friendly is the NPCs. Well, I suppose the good or not, they don't have a super big story for each character that you find in maybe some current and modern games, and it's a little bit left to your imagination, which I'll talk about more. But for now, we're fighting up against some hobgoblins, which are pretty easy folks, pretty easy mobs in this game to fight. And one thing I quite like about Baldur's Gate, which maybe is unique to it, is there's not really random generation of enemies to fight. It's all static, and I suppose that what makes it suitable for hardcore reloading and replaying the game over and over, because you start to learn where every enemy is. Anyway, so each NPC has basically just a voice line, a nice picture. They've got one main quest which they need to do. Oh, okay. So there's a flaming fist, and it's actually quite intimidating to see fully armored people start to come attack you. So at this moment, we're currently just kiting them. But normally I would use some spells if we had sleep. Oh. Oof. So it's got 1 health left. Normally I would try to use some like a sleep or command if we had it. But at this stage we don't have any of that memorized or able to use. These 3 are usually quite good to battle out, because basically with it you get 3 sets of plate mail, which is really useful for all your fighters to have lower AC. Oh, there's 1. And for better or for worse, as some people would say, Enhanced Edition gave 3 of them. Second one? What? Oh, almost. There was initially just 1 in the original game, where you could just 1 flaming fist to attack. Now they've come in a trio, which then means you get 3 sets of plate mail. Oh, there we go. To gear up your party with. It makes it, I suppose, in some ways harder for when you're fighting them, but then easier for the early part of the game, because now you've got 3 sets of really good armor for your party. Now, in terms of progressing with the story, you don't actually need to go to the Friendly Arm Inn, or even Beregost for that matter. You really just need to start heading into Nashkel and making your way down into the mines. As a quick recap of the story, so you grew up in Candlekeep with your foster father Gorion. One day he didn't really make a reason for it, but he decided that both you and him should leave. As you are travelling, you are ambushed by a mysterious figure. Figure asks to hand over your ward, which is you. Gorion refuses and battles the mysterious figure and asks you to run. Get out of here. Before you had left Candlekeep, he asks that if you were ever separated from him, to meet his friends Khalid and Jahira, the Friendly Arm Inn. First they sympathize with your loss, but then they indicate that they were sent to this region. They were sent to investigate the iron shortage which is crippling the Sword Coast. And the other 2 that we've found on the road, Zara and Montemont, have also been sent by a different faction. The story of Baldur's Gate is it's a really deep and compelling story, and especially for the main antagonists of the story. There's many facets to their background, their personality, their motivations, and you can't help but come away and say, oh man, these are cool bad guys. So the most important thing that we're looking to get from this area is the antique plate mail, which is hidden by this little tree here in this field. It does easily, especially at the early game, one of the best armors you can get. Oh, even at the late game too. Oh, yes, so here is a random encounter. And gotta love low-level adventures in D&D. Because especially in low levels, everything can be particularly pretty scary. Oh, now there are two of them! It's almost quite insane because between the first and second level, especially for fighters, it was almost 100% increase because you're doubling in health, doubling in attack, doubling in everything. Now, I can't quite remember what we're doing here. We weren't just beelining the story. Sometimes we like to run off and go off into the wilderness and just explore and just fight creatures. Oh no, I think we're heading towards the Knoll Fortress, where it has that really important item that I was talking about earlier. The one I don't like playing the game without, because it's just so useful for so many characters. And that of course is the Gloves of Dexterity. Now this is also a knoll which has been added in the Enhanced Edition. It's got a very special halberd. Ingot, I think his name, the name of the knoll is. Does massive damage, just that it has only one attack per round. It sets your characters to one attack per round. It's okay for quite a few characters, just not for fighters, but something like a bard, you only get one attack per round anyway. And yeah, that's absolutely fine. Yeah, this is Kodo and his brother Crumb. I think it also might have been added that in the Enhanced Edition that they were given a 1+ club to get, which is very useful for the hero. At this point in the game, we've managed to get through most of it just with some range attacks and some kiting. And it's always in the case at the very start, like super cautious, and we like always kiting and using range, and then suddenly after we get a few levels, start to get a little bit too confident in getting into melee, and that's when we start running into trouble. And you would have noticed that we play with using 3 characters each, which I think is a good amount. Any more than that, I must admit, will probably get too hard to micro. Always get a little bit nervous, just if anything is actually attacking you. Because you never know when this game works on a system, what they call a 1d20 system. You never know when when an enemy hits a 20, it's an automatic hit. This game. Dependingly, that automatic hit or that critical hit could just kill you out of nowhere. In comparison to Baldurs Gate 2, Baldurs Gate 1 really does make its mark on just how much you can explore the maps. And they do look like an open world. It's as much as an open world game as it could have been without it being boring and empty. Alright, so it looks like we're up to the Knoll Fortress, which is a good place to leave it for today. Give us something to look forward to, because it's a good battle place. Appreciate any comments that anybody has, any feedback on this style of video. This is only one of our runs. Too bad it's got mostly just kiting and range. Normally there's a lot more spells going on. Oh, down he goes. Oh, yeah. Always get scared, like I said. Whenever the fist is fun. And being out of the deck spells. Oh, very, very good. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.